All right, hello and welcome back to another tweaking video that has negative connotations these days, but just minor adjustments, okay, on these pieces. I'm doing it on these larger pieces just because, we've already spent quite a bit of time on them, and I think they're worth kind of investigating as far as potential improvements go. I don't want to spend, double the time, that I took to do this. But if it's just minor little things, I think it's a good idea to always go back into these pieces. Okay, so what I'm looking at with this piece right here is, again, the area down in here seems a little lackluster. Okay, there's not very much going on in terms of value changes and textural changes. So I can see these little, shadow areas that I've added down using colored pencils specifically, but they've been muted out a lot. I don't know if I went over them too much with white pigment ink or what. Now this represents snow, so I don't want to add in too much contrast, like extreme contrast, but we need to just kind of liven this up. So I'm going to go into this piece and just add some more color and variation, I guess I should say, within this piece, okay? So I like to use cool tones, blues and purples down in my snowy shadow areas here. So we're going to do that first. Okay. And then I think I'll add in a little bit more texture with my white paint pen, something that I did with the grassy large format piece in my last video. So just going in, and we're just kind of adding these little adjustments just slowly, okay? I'm not going to develop any one area a lot. I'm just going to try to bring up the entire piece together as kind of a unified, I don't know, whatever process. So I'm doing that because I can kind of check for balance as well as I'm doing this. In other words, if I develop the shadow down here in an extreme, it might be out of balance with what I do over here. So I want to bring up all my shadows a little bit together, and then I'll make my adjustments further, okay? So that's what you usually do when drawing anything, toning, shading, and whatnot. You usually don't work like, everything into, full resolution from like one corner and then over to the next, because you might have kind of this, I don't know, continuity problem between the types of marks you were adding in one area by the time you move on to the next area, unless you've done like something like a lot before and you're really confident of your, I don't know, whatever applications, in this case using the pencils, your strokes, hatching, whatever. Okay, I was just about to go spray seal this piece, and then I was looking at it and I thought, I'm losing a lot of the, or missing a lot of the shadow areas in here that I liked when I was working on it, but it looks a little anemic to my eye now. So we'll go in and just increase that. Contrast, I guess. It's not too much contrast. It's minimal, but so if you go over it like with a white pigment ink, and it was light to begin with, then it could be barely visible now. So I probably took the shadows into, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe a 30% gray value or something like that. And then I went over it and it probably knocked it down to, I don't know, 15, 10, 5%. So it's like barely visible. So it could stand to use, another touch of Color, tone, shadow. I was watching this movie, The Snowman. I hadn't seen it before. I guess it's a really famous book, kid's book. But I was watching the animated version. You can see it here on YouTube. I think it's 1982 or something like that. So if you just type in The Snowman and check that out, the entire piece is done. The animation style is all colored pencils, as I'm guessing that's what the book was. So they want to kind of match the spirit of the book, but incredibly beautiful. But you can really see what colored pencils are, in their kind of their full glory look like, and they're very textural, and there's a lot of hatching kind of marks, and that's really what kind of the colored pencils are kind of designed for. Not this kind of ultra smooth application where you can't see like any texture at all, which is cool too, but it's really not in the spirit of the colored pencils, kind of in their finest incarnation as far as expression goes. You really want to see the marks that they leave. Okay, so developing our shadows a little bit more. It's turning a little bit too kind of purplish for me, violet, but I'm going to use that as a base layer for my blue tones right here that'll be going right over the top of it. So it just changes the, I don't know, whatever the layered depth of the blue tones by adding in other tones like that. So, but yeah. Check out the Snowman if you have a chance. It's an incredibly beautiful piece. Oh, in fact, I want to illustrate that song that goes with it, "Walking in the Air." I think illustrate it with stamp scenes. I think. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to try to influence this area down here a lot more with the shadow being cast by this tree. We'll anchor this one down as well a little bit more. Probably some black too. Okay, coming around a little bit. I need to make sure that I don't run out of, I think probably my favorite color of blue, and it's this aquamarine. I should order another one of these ones. This one's going pretty fast. It's kind of like the Caribbean blue Marvy ink pad that I have. It's a warm, rich, bright blue. Kind of, it really makes the surface glow. This warm tone blue. Same goes for the scenes where you're utilizing kind of a jewel tone color like that. I'd imagine most lines of inks probably have kind of a warmish tinge blue. I've seen it in pigment inks as well. I think it was called Robin's Egg or something like that. All right, now I'm going a little bit too crazy in here with the color, but I'll mute that down and we'll hit it again with some white pigment ink as well. I've got a lot of cotton buildup right here with that white pigment ink addition right in there. All right, it's getting a little bit better. A little bit more interesting, I think. This is a little bit too crazy right over here, but we'll keep developing it. I'm not a colored pencil-ist. Yeah, very much of a practitioner of it, okay? Not by any means. I just started using my very old set of colored pencils a lot more over this last year. So I've used them more over this last year than I have in, I don't know, the last 30 years of having them, so. But I know what I want from a visual standpoint, whether I'm able to achieve it, exactly. Debatable, but working on my technique. Okay, let's go into black. Black is the color that we stamped out our trees in, so it's a good one to utilize to develop your kind of deeper shadows and whatnot. Your light direction. It anchors the imagery down really well too. So, I mean, if you didn't stamp out your objects with black, let's say you stamped out with a dark brown or something like that, then go to dark brown, usually, I mean, you can go to black, but see, if I stamp this in a dark brown, we're establishing that that's, excuse me, the darkest color of a given shadow area. So, you're utilizing the same tone or different values of that darkest color. So you can get lighter values of a dark brown, or in this case, lighter values of black, which are more gray, to develop those shadows. But it's of the same hue, though, okay? So it just makes it very easy to kind of figure out what to use potentially in terms of your final color when adding these shadow tones like this. I'm getting a little bit more movement too here. Okay. I think that looks a lot better. The lighting is better over here. Over here. Okay. Looking a little bit better. Okay, let's see. Let's anchor this down a little bit. There's just a little bit of area right on this tree, but it's kind of floating a little bit. I can frame off the scene a lot more using a darker tone over here, I think. I think that should do it with that. Let's see, let's go in here a little bit more too. Let's add a little bit more texture in here. It just needs a little bit more variation. There's a lot of open space here. The texture on this paper is so rough. I need to be careful because where I go over it with a pencil, it's leaving a much harder mark. Let me see. Let me scrape off some of this cotton ball texture from the pigment inks that were applied. Okay. All right, I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go in with my black Brilliance ink now again, and I'm going to darken some areas of my tree trunks just to kind of push lighting and depth and shadow on them a little bit more. I'm not going for a direct 100% application of black either. What we'll do is we'll try to use this in a gray tone. So just kind of lightly dab. It's not the ideal thing to be adding something over the top of such extreme kind of applications of a waxy colored pencil, because media is just not going to stick to that very well. But I don't think we should have any problem getting a little bit of a layer down. Probably if I tried to add too much to it, I'm guessing that that I would be lifting off some media, meaning the pigment ink, as opposed to applying it, because it's going to be very, very surface oriented. It's going to be sitting on the surface of the wax. Okay, yeah. See how much darker it is there. So let's get some of this applied. This is just my little makeshift mask here. Okay, I'll anchor this down a little bit more. I was thinking about too much of the snow over here too, and not so much about framing, so I didn't really add too much at the base of this tree. But we need to consider kind of compositional framing here too. So making this trunk darker should serve that purpose, especially because it goes practically all the way down to the base of the page. So I'm just kind of adding this down to the base of it like that. Yeah, look at that. That looks so much better. Okay, and let's see. Why don't we go into this one a little bit? You don't have to do it uniformly throughout. You can just kind of darken some areas of it, like this, and then you go down, skip down there a little bit, because lighting is always super consistent, unless you're talking about something like a completely uniformly cylindrical object, like a pipe or somewhere, or a column or something like that, that's in uniform lighting. But presumably there's going to be foliage up here in this canopy of trees, so the lighting is going to be different, throughout the this grouping of trees. So you can see the difference between these ones and these ones over here, just with that extra shading on there. I mean, that looks pretty good just as is, but I think I'm going to follow up and do the same thing. I think with this close one right here, I won't do it. Maybe I'll leave that one as is, just so it'll be a little bit of a different value. But this one right here is also kind of close to the bottom of the page, so it can serve as another useful framing device element. So it doesn't go quite down to the base of the page, but I'll put it in a little bit of shadow like this. Now let's take a look here. That looks a little bit better, doesn't it? It's a little bit more dreamy looking, I think. The trees look quite a bit better, I think. Let's address this one in the background slightly, just to give it a little bit of consistency with the other ones. From a textural standpoint, I don't know if you can really see too much texture, but adding this down over the top of all those colored pencils, I mean, it does change the spirit of the look of them a little bit. I don't have a lot of like cross hatching or anything like that, like noticeable colored pencil work within the forms, but adding this down there, I mean, like I said, it is changing it a little bit, so, you know, it can stand to use a little bit of, you know, this, you know, same type of application up there. But I think that looks better. I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, so that is that, but I do need to address, you know, some of my colored pencil work in some of these areas. This right here is a problem, so what we're going to do is we're going to add in some more textural, whatever, counter textures with our white pen. So we're working with shadows basically coming this way with darker tones, and we'll work from the inside out using lighter tones, okay? So, I mean, we're not going to be able to see too much of this, and I'll just utilize it in these lighter areas, and then I'll have it go into the darker areas just a little bit, where it becomes a lot more visible because of the contrast. So in other words, when I'm adding white into white, you can't see anything. But then when I start bringing it into these colored pencil shaded areas, you know, you start to see a little bit more. So you see these little kind of, I don't know, like dancing little dots. I can't zoom in here too much. And there's so little contrast. Hopefully you can see kind of it throughout here. You know, that's where I've added it right here, here, and here. But I'll add it right down in this area as well. So in the shadows, they transition into the light. Okay, shadows transition into the light, going from darker to lighter. Lighter areas transition into the dark, going from lighter to darker. So darker to lighter with your shadows as they transition away, and lighter to darker, okay? And then transition both. Don't, you know, put the same amount of like heavy dots in here as you do in the lighter areas, okay? In this case, you know, this is one of those cases where it's like, okay, the light in the light area, you can't see it at all, but that's a good place to start though. So it's, you know, you can just add it and get your rhythm down, then you can kind of move it up into the darker areas like that. And I don't bring it all into there, okay? That's too dark in there. You just kind of transition it out. So you space your dots kind of farther apart. Let's see, I want to add a little bit more texture in here, so well, I'll just have some of those kind of little areas in my snow kind of shimmering just a touch. Some of these larger pieces, I mean, I don't spend any more time doing them than, some of my smaller pieces that have, much more detail in them or something like that. But I don't know, whenever I see, when I see this big piece here, I don't know. And I'm thinking about, potential additions to it. It's like, I don't know, I feel compelled to do those, those improvements on it, where I normally wouldn't on a smaller piece. I don't know. Maybe there's like a little bit more, whatever, visual significance or something like that to the piece. It just seen it big. All right, see that area down there? You can see a little bit more from a textural standpoint. But overall, I don't want it like overpowering the piece, so that's why I keep kind of my light areas, and the semi illuminated areas, that are just a little bit darker than white, so that the white shows up in that area. Okay. That black, it seems like it it kind of lightens up, I think, a little bit after it dries, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's just in my mind or something like that. I think it does dry a little bit lighter. Whereas when you put on white over the top of dark, it dries darker looking. I don't know, I guess both of these get a little bit more. The pigment inks get a little bit more transparent or something? I'm not sure. Pushing that lighting a little bit more. Light direction, I should say. This one's like all left side illumination, which I usually don't do. I usually have it center illuminated, but I think this looks pretty cool too. I need to do that more often. Just one hard kind of light direction. It wouldn't be bad to have some kind of warmer tones in the background too. Maybe I should do that. There's a lot of different textures in here now, so I'm not sure if I can do that or not. Like in the background, just have kind of a little bit of a warmer glow. I guess I can do it with the colored pencils and kind of, where it wouldn't be too extreme. Oh gosh, I know it would be better. It'd be better if it was like a little bit of a gray warm haze kind of at the top. A little bit foggy or something like that. So, let's give that a shot here. Let's go with the London fog. Let's see, I think I have that in re-inker form, yeah. So I have that in re-inker form here. So let's cap off the top a little bit with a re-inker fluid, or just with London fog, a tone basically. Yeah, I think my sky is looking a little anemic here. Okay, so this London fog, it has a little bit of tone to it, so it's not completely... it's not just a neutral gray. To me, I don't know. It's kind of a... It has a little bit of a... I don't know what it has in it. It's a little bit of greenish tinge, maybe. Okay, I'm getting a little bit... There's a lot of ink in this paper towel, so I'm getting a little bit more than I thought I would be applying right now. So I'm going to be a little bit careful. I'm probably picking up some color off my trees too, which I normally don't, but I stamped those ones with the foamies, so there was probably a ton more ink on there. So, I mean, those trees are completely dry, but if you hit it with a really wet applicator, you know, like this one is right now, it's probably putting some of that ink of the trees back into solution. Okay, so now it's the consistency I want on my paper towel. It's probably going into it too wet here. But, I mean, it did pick up a little bit of tone from those trees, but that's fine. I guess it'll, I don't know, help to unify it maybe. Or, I don't know, bring continuity. Maybe not unification, but continuity. All right, so adding this in like so. Okay. So I don't know if you can tell, it's like capping off the top quite a bit. And let's go on with the side here a little bit more. Just to give it a little bit more of a vignette type of feel. I think it looks pretty good through these trees as well. Just not having it just so stark white against that background. Okay, let's go with that, and then let's bring in a little bit of warmth into the terrain. I'm looking for the right color of colored pencil. I'll see if I have a tan like this one. It's a little bit peach. If I had something a little bit more kind of beige, I think that would be perfect. I don't know if I do, so let's just try this one right here. So I just want to warm up my sky a touch, kind of in the transition between a full application and where it's getting lighter. One of the reasons I'm doing this too is because my tree trunks, not the green ones, but the, you know, the more Sequoia-ish ones, they're just so warm, so it stands to reason that there would be a little bit of a kind of a warmer light within the piece. All right, so I'm adding it kind of in this zone right in here. I don't know if you can tell that's a little bit warmer right there. So just go with a really light touch, okay, so that you have a lot of control over it. Oh, I know what happened right over here. I got a little bit smudgy because I was going into my black brilliance ink over here with that London fog. That's what it was. I was putting that brilliance ink back into solution a little bit, or it was still a little bit wet. It's not really too big of a deal, but I noticed that color right there is a little bit different. All right, so this is pretty good. I haven't really done this type of thing with a colored pencil before to kind of embellish or to add just subtle, really subtle variation to kind of a glowing sky silhouette, I guess, framing. So I didn't have that color, you know, in just ink form, so you're just kind of creating it with another layer of media that does the trick. Yeah, this is doing it really nicely. Hopefully you can see that kind of warmish tinge right up there. Okay. All right, now, because that is up there, God, that's so much better. Let's bring it down into this area down here. I was kind of debating on whether or not I wanted a little bit of a warmer light in some of these shadow areas, but I wasn't going to do it. But since we did it up in that sky, let's add that in now. I'm just gonna make my shadow areas on the edges of them a little bit. I don't know, whatever, glowing with that slight warmth to it. I still want it to read kind of as white. So it'll be, I'm going for kind of an ever slow, slight temperature change right down in here. Okay. I don't know if you can even tell that right down in here. Not so much, it's a little bit warmer down here. So, I don't know, might be a slightly more inviting looking piece right here. Let's go in and add in a little bit of a slight vignette too. Let's see, I think the pigment ink will do a better job with this one right here. All right, so that I got a little bit smudgy over here with this pigment ink. No, it's not going to matter because I'm just going to use some of this black pigment ink towards the top of the scene anyway. Just got to frame it off a little bit better. Doesn't apply too evenly because of all that, you know, that colored pencil usage, but, you know, it works, you know, well enough, I guess. Okay. So you can really see that kind of darkening right in there. It's kind of bringing more attention right in here, I think, from a visual standpoint. Darken my shadow right down here. Kind of deepen the framing around in this area too. I'm going to really anchor this bottom corner down here. Let's go like this. And then I'll add in that pretty harsh shadow area right down in here. Maybe about like that. Okay, yeah. It's real glary, I know, so let's hold it up like that. You can see all the light glares coming off of it. And then I'll be spray sealing this afterwards. Let's see, that's pretty harsh right down in here, so let's continue that out over here. If it's going to be that dark, let's make it pretty dark over that whole section. Can't wait to spray seal this one. All right, let's take a look. Did it accomplish what I'm trying to do? A little bit. I mean, there were some other things that kind of came about with this one too that I wasn't really kind of thinking about in terms of that little bit of warmer light throughout there. When I said kind of here, I need to push things a little bit more in some areas. So sometimes I take things a little bit too slowly. I don't think so ever with my smaller pieces, but I'm finding with these bigger ones, there's a little bit of a different spirit, I guess. You just have to go, because the piece is just so much larger to begin with. I don't know, I'm speculating that you just have to go bolder with the various areas, not just proportionately. It's like, this is like 4 times larger than like a normal, quarter page card, roughly about. Okay. So it's like you almost have to go, I don't know, what are proportionately more of, with a certain visual, whatever statement, I guess, working large. Or even more. I don't know. Instead of like 4 times the amount, not just of like dots or something like that, not just in terms of like coverage, but just in terms of I don't know, whatever impact, I guess. It's hard to kind of put into words. I don't have the language for it yet because I haven't been working this large traditionally. Okay, so I need to be careful here because I'm getting a little bit smudgy on my hands. I'm picking up some of that pigment ink that's been applied on there because, like I said, it's just coming right off when I'm touching it because it's over the top of wax, where normally it would adhere very well. So I need to be a little bit careful about that. Okay, so let's see. Let's go in with some additional white again, and I'm not going to like just blot off everything that I just applied. So I need to be careful about that. Okay, so let's add some of this into this illuminated area. I feel like there's nothing on my cotton ball here. Okay, here we go. So I'm just coming into some of these areas slightly where it's just, you know, especially where my colored pencil work does not look, you know, terribly, you know, confidently applied, I should say. All right, so that area of light looks pretty good in there, I would say. Let's bring a little bit more of that. Okay, so what I'm doing right here is I darken that side of my trunk, and right on this side I'm kind of illuminating this side a little bit more, which it was, but I'm just kind of pushing it a little bit more to really kind of push that directional lighting statement. Okay, I think that is it this time. I don't foresee any additional touches to this piece. Let's see, let's vary this tree in the background slightly. Let's put a little pigment ink over some of it. Same thing with this one too, maybe. It kind of separates it, the forms distance-wise from, you know, the very defined tree trunks right here. It puts these back in kind of that atmospheric mist and light a little bit more. And I think that is it. Let's take a look here. There's our sequoias right there. Sequoias in the snow. Let's see, trying to make an assessment if I should do anything else in here. But I think that has accomplished largely what I was going for. Let's see, this thing right here, this slope right here is a little bit awkward. Let's angle this slightly. Okay, it's like sculpture or something like that. Tweaking things forms slightly. This pigment ink is still a little bit wet, so. All right, so those are my little tweaks here. I mean, in some ways, I don't know, I should have taken a photograph of it before and had a little bit of before and after, but I don't know, those little types of touches I think make, you know, can make a difference just in terms of not just subtleties, but you know, you're just expanding on kind of what exists a little bit here and there. You make things a little bit darker. The lighter areas seem a little bit lighter. You know, darker edge on this side, so it kind of emphasizes the illuminated side proportionately. And I don't know, like I said, that snow down there is just a little bit more interesting too. I don't know if you can tell, but there's that little bit of a warm glow in there. and then coming from a top like that. I think that addressed that area in the background. I think just the overall piece is framed off a little bit better now. I was tempted to go with some kind of light coming through, light beams, but I think that would just be a little bit too much in this piece here. I think I would make it denser if I was to put those light beams in there. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed the piece, and hope you like the improvements on here. I think they're improvement, or the changes. So we'll say, hey, I liked it better before, which is fine too. But anyways, learning a little bit more about, I don't know, just working in scale, I guess, working in at this scale, you know, as I do each one of these pieces. So it'll be something for me to consider when doing pieces from scratch. Okay, so anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you like these videos, hope you hit the like button and subscribe.